Welcome to The Real Life Buyer. Whether you are buying for yourself or your business, here you will find tips, techniques and knowledge to support your journey to buying smart. Interviewing business owners and technical experts to give you information and guidance before parting with your money. Save money, time and get what you want when you want it. Now introducing The Real Life Buyer, David Barr.
Hello and welcome to The Real Life Buyer. Today, I'm extremely pleased to interview Rai OBrien. Rai is joining me all the way from Byron Bay in Australia. Rai's background stems from self-development and the use of natural therapies. She has also studied neuro-linguistic kinesiology, something I find difficult to say, which I think was originally developed by somebody called Wendy Bennett. I think that's right. Anyway, today Rai is here to talk to me about something that is completely new to me, but sounds extremely interesting. And this is called Akashic Records. Rai has undertaken extensive training on this subject and has developed a system more conventionally associated with a personal spiritual journey into one that works with business. And this system is known as the Akashic Business Alignment System. So, without further delay, hello, Rai, and welcome to the podcast.
Hello, thank you so much for having me.
No, I've been really looking forward to this. We've had a little chat before we recorded, and it's great to find out a little bit more about you. But obviously for our listeners, we'd like to hear about yourself, perhaps your spiritual journey to bring you where you are today.
Yeah, sure. Well, gosh, I think I got a bit of a head start compared to most people because I grew up with a mum who learnt Reiki in the very, very early days of Reiki being brought to Australia. So I think maybe I was 7 years old or something when that was kind of introduced to me. So I was brought up with alternative ways of thinking, I guess, and natural therapies and healing being kind of at the forefront of our approach to life. So that was kind of just always the direction that I naturally kind of went towards. I studied massage, I studied different energetic healing, herbs and all that sort of thing. But it wasn't until much later in my life, after I had my kids and everything, that I came back to studying kinesiology. And you're absolutely right. I'm very impressed that you tracked down that neuro-linguistic kinesiology was founded by Wendy Bennett. That's because I didn't give you that bit of information, so that was good detective work. But it's a beautiful blending of neuro-linguistic practices, so brain language basically, and kinesiology, which is uses muscle testing. So we just ask the muscles to give us a yes or no answer, and it helps us to dig in and find emotions and stress and different events that are being held in our energy, in our emotions and in our body, and then find the right ways, the best ways for us to release those so that we can move on and not have those things kind of dictating our life and our lifestyles anymore. So we can use that sort of thing to release a lot of emotional baggage that we carry with us. And so when I started working with kinesiology, really that was my first forays officially into the Akashic Records. But I didn't know it. I didn't know that that's what they were called until I stumbled across this thing called the Akashic Records and sat down and watched a webinar, just transfixed. And I hate webinars, so I don't have the attention span for it. So the fact that I could focus made me go, hang on, maybe we really need to pay attention to this, because I am paying attention. And what I discovered was that the Akashic Records are basically an energetic library of all of the things that have ever happened, ever possibly will happen, and what did I say? Ever have, ever possibly will, and
yes.
And are things that currently are. So all of the possibilities and the things that are happening. And there are records for people who have souls, so humans. There's an individual record for each soul. But things like houses and properties can have Akashic records, animals can have Akashic records. And what I discovered was that businesses have Akashic records as well. And so I was, just learning and working with the Akashic Records on a personal level and working with clients on personal levels. And one day I just thought, I wonder how this can apply to my business, because I'd been learning about, my personal gifts and these energies that I'd been working with lifetime after lifetime. So if you're not a subscriber to the idea that we, reincarnate and have more than one lifetime, that it's not really the system for you. But if you're open to that, then that's what this concept really works with. And yeah, I was just getting so much value out of understanding myself more deeply. And I went, well, businesses have their own records as well. So I wonder what I can learn about my business, and applied the system that I was using on a personal level to my business, and found out what energies my business really loved, and they were different to my own. So kind of that there in itself was probably the biggest concept of the system that I ended up creating. So I kind of used the framework of what I had studied and then tweaked it all to apply to business, and created my own system to apply to businesses.
Okay. So just trying to get an understanding for those people who don't have these I don't know, emotions or senses or whatever you want to call it. What is it you actually feel or detect? Do you have an inner voice? Do you have just a feeling, a perception? What is it that comes through and you can turn into words?
That is a really, really good question. So it's interesting, and it's different for everybody. So anyone that accesses the Akashic Records, and just to note, anyone has the ability to access the Akashic Records. It's not exclusive. But we are all intuitive. We all have intuition, and we all have the ability to kind of pick up the information that's in the quantum field around us. So we all also process that information differently. For me personally, I don't hear things audibly, but I hear them inside of me and I know them inside of me. So I also use my muscle testing. Actually, not so much now. When I first started out, I would use my muscle testing to look for the answers. But what I found was that more and more I knew the answer before I tested it out. So now when I'm working with the Akashic Records, a lot of it is just intuitive flow, and I've learned to trust that. I've learned that, if I don't trust it, it just keeps slamming me in the face until I go, all right, I'm listening, I've got it. So yeah, but some people feel it. They feel it in their body somehow. Some people actually do hear audibly. Everyone's different.
Right. Okay. Because I can think of sort of the gut feel about, is this a right thing to do or a wrong thing to do? I can kind of understand that. But when you're applying this, these senses to things that perhaps are inanimate objects, that's why I'm trying to figure out, well, how is this connection coming through, and how do you translate that for somebody when you're talking about something that actually isn't a living thing, like a business? How do you translate that for them to
Like
understand what on earth that means?
Yeah. So my little way of describing myself, especially as I sort of started exploring this, was you get psychics who talk to dead people. I do the same, but I talk to businesses. And I actually, when I connect with a person and their business, I feel the energy of the business, and I receive the personality of the business. And it's, yes, the business is not a living, breathing thing, but the energy that they have is very similar to our personality of your friend. And what I say to people is, when you connect with your business, you're no longer doing business alone, because you literally have a new best friend that's always there with you. Because it's, when you tap into that and can connect with it, it's literally like they have a personality that likes to communicate and share their ideas, and they understand what your vision for business is as well, because you're connected, and you're not one and the same, but you're very connected as well. So that communication is really there.
Okay. So you somehow have developed this into a system. I can understand you have a system, obviously, with people. So you would ask a series of perhaps questions. I don't know how this works, but you ask a series of
Yeah.
questions, you get people's responses, you get to feel their emotions and their terminology for perhaps their responses. So how does that work with the business side of things?
Yep. So I have, when we're talking about energies that we use, there is a set series of energies that we personally access and use and work with, and I use those with the businesses as well. So I test through that list of energies to come up with what the energy is that business most prefers. And then, when we're looking at things that are kind of in the way and blocking, that's very much, it's about working with the human and the business together.
Yeah.
And yeah, so it's not, yeah, it's very much combined rather than separate.
Right. Okay. It's interesting where it mentions the word blocking, and that's something that I guess has a huge impact on the business. People are uncomfortable with doing things. So
Yeah.
how do you help people to become more comfortable with what they are uncomfortable with? I put that
Yeah,
right.
it's really fun. It's actually really fun. Because there are a whole range of different experiences that we can have had in this lifetime and in previous lifetimes. And when we can identify what they are, and it's a similar process that, I've got a list of things that I can go through, and sometimes random stuff comes in as well. But
Yeah.
mostly I've got my checklist that I go through. And as I do that, I usually receive a little bit more information intuitively around, this choice or this experience was related to this kind of thing going on in a previous lifetime. And when we do that, it brings forth a pattern that we can see of how we currently operate in this lifetime, but knowing and understanding that it originated in a time that we have no control over right now. And when we can see that pattern is operating, when we bring our awareness and consciousness to it, 99% of the time we go, oh, wow, I had no idea that was playing out in the background, but I can see exactly how it does play out in my lifetime right now. And once we create that awareness about it, we can see it when it pops up again and again, and we can choose whether we buy into the old story and the old reaction, or if we choose to do things a different way. So it's really, the fun part is about creating the power to choose differently and not just run unconsciously.
Right. Okay. So if somebody wants to come in and find out what needs to be fixed, if you want to put that in their sense, how do they prepare before they come to see you? What do they need to do? What do they need to think about? How do they need to organize themselves?
Literally, really nothing. So if you're going to work with me, all I ask is for your full name and your date of birth. And that does two things. One, it helps me kind of make sure that I'm connecting with the right energy, with your energy, but it also tells the universe, me, the Akashic Records, that you're giving me permission to access your records. And that's there are some kind of rules of integrity around working with the Akashic Records. And the biggest one is that you don't access them for someone else unless you have their permission. So that's the biggest, most important thing, preparation wise, that you've given that permission, and then that then allows me to dive in and see what's coming up.
Right. Okay. And how important is somebody's mindset, their acceptance of this type of work to help them? Because there's obviously a lot of skeptical people out there. Is it going to work for me? It's a lot of mumbo jumbo. You hear those things.
It can be pretty out there and pretty woo woo for people. A little bit of openness is essential to get the most benefit out of it. Self-responsibility is huge to get the most benefit out of it, because once we've created the awareness around what's going on, we do some work to kind of lessen how that's affecting you, but it's then up to you to move forward, making the choices that support the way you want things to play out rather than reverting back to the old patterns. And that's not something that I can do for you. That's something that you have to be able to do for yourself. So that's really important. But living in the woo-woo world, being, all au fait with it and everything is not essential. Some of the most fun sessions I've done and some of the most transformative and impactful sessions I've done have been with people who have been like, I have no idea what this is about. It's just kind of come into my field of awareness and I felt like I needed to do it. And they're just blown away because they had that openness to it, just like, let's see what happens.
Okay. So is it almost like two things here? One, that you need to understand perhaps yourself better. And then when you understand yourself, how that applies to your business, is that a sensible way of thinking about it?
Yeah, it's one way of thinking about it, because when you understand yourself better, you can understand what your superpowers are better, or you can understand what your gifts are and turn them into superpowers. And when you bring the business into it as well, it's another set of energies that you can really work with and harness. So you kind of just amplify the gifts that you have to work with and the energy that you have to draw on.
Okay. So think about the businesses and think about geography as well. So does it matter how long the business has been going for, what size it is, whether its purpose is X or Y, where they are
No,
geographically in the world? Does it make any difference
no,
to you?
not at all. Not at all. So I do 100% of my work is online.
Okay.
So I don't see anyone in house. I work from home, but I also have a whole bunch of kids that come in and out of the house. So online is my preferred way of working,
Yeah.
and the only way that's really functional for me. So yeah, I've got clients. I've had clients in Dubai. I've had clients in Germany and the Netherlands and England and America, New Zealand, Australia. So they're scattered all over the place, and
Okay.
it's just as effective wherever you are, no matter where you are.
Okay. So could you talk us through the kind of sort of steps or principles that you do? So somebody's obviously contact you, they've set up a meeting. What kind of thing would they expect to be walked through during the reading or meeting?
Yeah. So I'm actually pivoting just a little bit. Well, not pivoting, but I'm bringing a new element into my work, which is I'm actually teaching other people to do this for themselves so that they're not
Great.
relying just on me to be able to do this. So I will always ask, are you open to this? And I will always ask, are you committed to creating change for yourself? If I don't get yeses for both of those, then I'm like, I'm sorry, see you
Yeah.
later. Um, if we're having a quick chat before diving into work, I always like to know, just where are you at with business? What are your dreams for moving forward? And what do you feel like is kind of stuck? But yeah, everything kind of comes through the field to me regardless. So if I haven't had that chat beforehand, that's not a problem either. Um, yeah, if I am having a chat to someone before we do some work, it's really good for me to be able to guide them into, okay, well, I think, maybe just a quick strategy session is good, or a full business reading, or what we're moving into now is learning to do it yourself. So there are a few different channels to be able to work with me.
Okay. So do you have different types of readings? Do you have you say a full-blown business one? I guess there are different levels of engagement with yourself then?
Yeah, so working one-on-one, what I call the full-blown reading is like a 2-hour sit-down session,
Okay.
and that takes preparation beforehand as well. And so obviously, that's a big commitment. If they're not quite ready for that, we can do just a strategy session where, rather than doing all the energies and the blocks and everything, we just have a chat, and I connect on the spot with them and their business and help them understand kind of where the business is trying to take them, and where they're kind of holding themselves back, and what they can do a bit differently.
Okay. So what would people expect to have to, budget for in time and cost? So is there any, if you have one or two sessions, you should be sorted, or is there some clients you work with forever? How does it work?
Yeah. So I have clients that I have just done just the one business reading with, and they keep going back over that and keep taking lessons from that and keep working with that. And I've had feedback that, I'm on to my fifth time and I'm still getting new stuff out of
Yeah.
this. I've had clients who, well, I don't know if you call them clients. I've had people who've done a free 5-day challenge with me and haven't bought in to do anything else, but I've spoken with them 12 months later and they've said, I'm still using what you taught us and it makes such a difference in my business. So, that was half an hour every day
Right.
for 5 days and they're still working with the process. And then I've got students who have done like a 12-week process with me and then have continued on to keep doing business coaching with me as well. So there's the whole spectrum there.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So that's quite interesting how things develop with people and how people take on board. So they get a sort of a written transcript. Is it an audio? Is it a video? You say there's lessons. So is there like a workbook and things like that? Or
So with the new format, there'll be workbooks and there'll be teaching videos and then there'll be live Q&As as well. If it's just a one-on-one reading, you get the PDF of the reading that we go through and any notes that we've taken during the session. And they get the recording of the reading as well. So there are a few different, what I always say is there is so much information coming at you and I'm
yeah.
going to bombard you. So take your own notes. I'll be adding notes. You'll get the PDF to reread and you'll have the video to rewatch and you will use all of it because people just go over and over it. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's really good. So you're touching on some of the three main receivers for people. Obviously video, people love video and they learn from that. Other people prefer
Yeah.
to read
Yeah.
things, and there's obviously a kinesthetic one as well.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Taking their own
that's really good.
notes. Yeah.
Okay, so perhaps you could, without obviously sharing any confidences, okay, the right word. Can you share some examples of how you've transformed people's lives and their businesses from where they started to perhaps where they are now? Have you got some examples you can share?
Yeah. Well, I'll start with me.
Okay.
Start with me. So before I created this system, I worked as a disability support person and I had studied the kinesiology part-time and was doing that part-time. And then once I created this system and started working with it, within 12 months, I had left my disability work and fully 100% full-time in my business, which I didn't ever imagine was going to be possible.
Yeah.
So that's my story. Gosh, what are some of my favorite ones? All right, one of my favorite ones was one of my original brave ladies that said, yes, I'll come and trial this with you. I'll trust you and do this work
Yeah.
with you. And after one of our sessions, during one of our sessions, she's like, I've got all these concepts in my head and there's this course that I want to create, but it's not like what everyone else does. It's different. And, she's in the spiritual world. She's like, I really don't like the way that this and this and this is done in the spiritual world. And according to her energies, she has to do things her own way. If she's not doing things her own way, then she feels like crap. And we went through this and explained it, and I was like, you've got to put your own spin on it. You have to do things your own way. Oh, but I can't. Well, yeah, you can. The only reason you can't is because you're saying you can't.
Yeah.
And so she got off this call, and within a week, she had opened a new group called the Spiritual Rebels.
Oh, okay, cool.
So she's like, stuff it. I'm doing it completely my own way. I'm calling myself a rebel and running with it. She had sent out invites for her course that she wanted to create. And I think in her session, she'd said, I'd be happy with kind of 4. I think she had 16 in it within that, and sold out, beyond her expectations, and then had people wanting more of it as well. And it was just that push of her understanding herself better and understanding the business energy that was coming in and kind of pushing her in directions that she hadn't quite understood before, and just accepting, okay, this is me. I don't have to fight it. just have to run with it. And it just created a whole different business experience for her and allowed her to really accept herself really deeply, which is really beautiful to see.
Mm. Yeah. So it's overcome quite a few, perhaps we talked about before about the blocks, your self-belief. It gave her some self-belief as well. I think that's one of the key things half the time is your fear of failure. Obviously, you try and stop using the word failure. It's a learning experience. So you have to put it down to, I've just learned what not to do, as opposed to having failed,
exactly.
I guess.
Yeah. And what I say to my kids, there's no such thing as a mistake. It's only a mistake, which is a chance to do something again.
Yeah. Okay. So once somebody's had obviously your advice, then the key thing is to take action. And that obviously going to mean doing something, getting some momentum, and getting that self-belief. Are there things that people should be doing to amplify the message in some way? Are there some activities they should be doing, perhaps that would reinforce some of your advice?
What we've done in the sessions, there are a couple of things. So as part of the sessions that we do, right at the end, we do a clearing. So we just say, we go into the Akashic Records and we say, erase these records that are here. And we're putting in these new records. These are the new expectations. These are the new experiences that we're moving towards. And then people have that to read for themselves afterwards as well. When I was taught it, it was taught that you have to do it for 21 days. What I found was that no one ever does it for 21 days. So my rule is you have to do it for 7 days. Most people can manage to do it for 7 days. And it can be, they can read it, they can record themselves reading it and listen to it. They just have to feel into that energy and just keep that. That's part of their self-responsibility. But when we're doing a session, we also create action steps based on the pattern that we're changing. So, say, for example, a block and pattern came up for you around, you made a choice where you gave up financial security in order to follow, your gifts and do what you really wanted to do. And in making that choice in a previous lifetime, it created this perception for your soul that to do what you really love to do, you'll never, ever make money. You'll never be financially secure when you're following what your heart wants to do. So we can remove those blocks with the clearing, but the real power is in the action steps that you take afterwards. So, okay, what things can you do after the session to help reprogram this belief that's kind of patterned in? So I actually did this with someone yesterday, and she wants to be creating artwork. And she's like, but, I'll never be able to make my living. And she had this pattern, actually. She had the pattern that she'd given up financial security to follow what she loved doing. And I said, well, okay, here's this for something to try doing. Make an artwork based on, and she's in the spiritual world, so make an artwork based on financial abundance coming to you through using your gifts. And then I want you to share that with your community and ask them to make a donation for their enjoyment of your artwork. And, whether it's 1 cent or $1 or $100, that will start to prove to your soul and to your consciousness that you can make money off doing what you love to do. And she's just like, mind blown. I can do that? Yes, I can do that. I can do that. And she'll come up, just doing that one thing, she'll come up with 100 other ways to start proving to her soul that she can have that the way that she wants to do it as well.
Yeah, I like that. That's good.
Mm-hmm.
Just thinking, you've got a business with obviously people in there. You're not on your own. How much of an influence are those other people in this respect? Do you need to do, or should the business owner do some work with those individuals so they're aware of the Akashic Records and things like that? Does that help?
This is actually really fun to look at, and I've worked with a few businesses in this way. And what we do is we look at each individual's personal energies, and then we look at each individual's business energies. and learn what those energies mean, the strengths of them, the negative sides of them. And in doing that, it helps each person to understand the other person better. And, say, for example, Dave, you and I were going into business together. I would say to you personally, truth is my most important energy to me. And for my business, wisdom is most important. So keeping things simple. So you need to not lie to me and we need to keep things uncomplicated and straightforward. And for you, maybe your personal energy is love, which is about having relationships with people, with clients, with, and those relationships being in balance. And maybe your business is communication. Okay. So using words and talking is really powerful for your business. So we would look at that and go, okay, so Dave needs this and Ray needs this. So we're going to make sure that, in our interactions that we're aware of that and we're honoring that. And the business energies, even if we're working on the same business, we will still bring a different energy to it. So we need to make sure that we're honoring the communication energy, and we're keeping things simple. And, ta-da, here we are having a chat, working on your business.
Yeah.
And it's just having that awareness and blending them. All the energies are compatible. They're all compatible. There's not a single energy that can't be, blended. It's just having that awareness of this is what's important to them and this is what's important to me, and we need to be mindful of all of that. So that's the best way that I've come across, for working with multiple people in a business and using this system.
Yeah, because I think that makes sense to me, that if I had a business with, let's say, you have a key team, you'd want all the people on the team to gel. We do all these outward bound type of things and these group therapy sessions. Well, for me, this is a similar kind of thing. If the business owner wants to pursue this, then you have to make sure everyone is aligned, and therefore the business is aligned. If you've got some people that are out of phase, so to speak, then I could think that's a bit like an engine with only 3 cylinders running instead of 4. So
and we can be like that on our own as well. If we don't understand what our business energy is, we can work against it. So, what I have found is very, very rarely is our business energy the same as our personal energy. And what can happen sometimes is the business energy can kind of push in and be like, I want you to do this. I want this stuff to happen. And so you'll get this information come into your head of like, oh, I should do this. And you poo-poo it because it's not what you would normally do. It's not your zone of comfort, but it's actually a really good idea for your business. And so often we poo-poo the really good ideas because it's not how we naturally automatically would operate. But when we understand, okay, that's my business energy coming in, and it's a little bit out of my comfort zone, but I know I've also got access to that business energy. So I'll be a little bit more aware of tapping into that, and let's run with this and see what happens. And this is what my client who created her course and her group did. She allowed the business energy to guide her more, and it took her a little bit out of her comfort zone, but it also brought her back into her authenticity as well. And in the end, the little bit of discomfort led to everything feeling a whole lot better as well.
Yeah. So you're broadening your experiences in your personal life as well, that hopefully will add some value. I think about, do I do live webinars and things like this? That's quite scary. I'm quite happy talking openly. I have lots of meetings with lots of people on Teams, but doing live sessions, it's a bit strange, that to me. So I'm toying with that at the moment, but there we go. Okay.
Maybe there's some blocks there that we could move forward.
Oh, I've got plenty of blocks, I can tell you now. Okay. Before I ask the final question, how would people get in contact with you, learn, obviously now you're coming out with your course yourself, that'd be great. How could they learn about the courses, how they can get some education on this subject?
So probably the easiest way to find me is on Facebook and my Facebook group. So, that the normal facebook.com/groups. And then it's just /ABACOM. ABACOM, ABACOM.
Abacom.
Akashic Business Alignment Community, it stands for. So that's the easiest way. Come and jump in there, answer the questions and join in. And then you're exposed to everything that I've got going on and can contact me and all that sort of thing as well.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
Okay, just one more thought I had. Obviously, we're going through a bit of a difficult time around the world. How have you seen these differences of the pandemic affect whether the people and business owners, are they reaching out more now for guidance as a result, would you say, of the pandemic and uncertainty? Or is it a case that, could they be reaching out more because of their willingness to accept something that's perhaps non-conventional? Is there any difference?
Yeah, what I have seen has predominantly been people seeking more freedom for themselves. So they've been exposed to this concept that the normal way, the old way of doing things is no longer viable. And maybe they're home from work because it's been shut down or whatever. So they've had more time to think about this and to actually do something about it. And yes, so many of the people that I've worked with. So I'm one of the people as well that I boomed during the pandemic. That's when my business really took off. And it was because I think largely because people had the time to sit down and go, you know what? That doesn't actually fit me anymore. And I've got the time and space to think about what does fit me. And they're expanding into a new way of being. So I've had, the thrill and the honor of being with people as they've kind of explored that and discovered what's next for them.
I thought that might be the case. People have time to think, or they're put into a position where perhaps the certainty they used to have has now gone. Lost their jobs or whatever the case may be, then that's an opportunity perhaps in itself. Well, it's been really interesting. I've got some food for thought there, and I'm sure the people listening will also get some food for thought. And obviously go and check out your Facebook group and everything else. So I'd certainly like to thank you for taking the time to spend with us today. I'm very, and also spread my thanks to your children for being so tolerant of taking you out of.
Well, I've only got 3 of 6 home at the moment. I've got 2, and then often have my best friend's 4 as well. But 2 of them are with their dad, and another one's at a friend. So I've only got 3 out there at the moment, but they've been very good. So
fantastic. Yeah. So thanks everything for that. And then I'd love to perhaps touch base with you in some time in the future and see how things are going, if that's okay.
Yeah, I would love to do that. Thank you so much for having me.
That's brilliant. Well, anyway, thank you again. Have a lovely evening in sunny Australia. And we'll be in contact soon, no doubt.
Sounds great. Thanks, Dave.
Cheers then. Bye-bye. Thank you for listening to this podcast. Please subscribe and leave a positive review if you can spare a minute or two. If you would like to contact me, my email address is david@thereallifebuyer.co.uk, or find me at Real Life Buyer on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter, where you're welcome to direct message me. I look forward to you joining me on future episodes. Take care, and remember, save money and buy smart.